and welcome to this tutorial on the fundamentals of lion dance music. I'm Jose, and as well as being a professional drummer and teacher, I've been part of a lion dance team for many years. In this video we will cover the basic techniques for the drum, cymbal and gong, and take you through the aspects of a typical lion dance performance. The ideas presented here are by no means exhaustive, but are designed to give you a starting foundation and help you to be creative with your own music making. In this first section of the video, we're going to talk about some of the basic techniques we use to create effective, reliable drumming. We're looking at several different ideas, how to strike the drum in different ways, as well as posture and how to use your sticks correctly. The first thing we're going to talk about is posture and grip. Let's talk about posture. When we're playing our drum, it's important that we bring ourselves down to the level of the instrument. We don't want to be standing up tall and bending over. Now, unfortunately, this means a really good, solid horse stance, using our martial arts training, hopefully, to produce the best posture. Trying to keep a straight back so our arms are free to stretch over the drum and reach pretty much anywhere on the drum skin, wherever we need. As we hold our drumstick, we need to create a fulcrum. It's important that this end of the stick is heavier than this end of the stick, the butt. So as we strike, we feel the stick fall towards the drum. If we hold the stick too near the middle, we get just near the middle of a seesaw and we don't get a very good response back from the skin. You'll notice that the thumb is opposite the first finger rather than the thumb on the top. Keep yourself that way round and allow the stick to always bounce off the drum skin. Single strokes. This is the most basic technique that we need for drumming, but it's also one of our key foundation skills. Without good single strokes, most lion drumming is pretty much impossible. What we're looking for when we play single strokes are good tone control. Each hand should sound the same as each other. Right and left, left or right. Here we go. We're looking at alternating our hands, trying to keep the same volume level on each hand. Doesn't matter whether you start on the right hand or the left hand first. You'll notice that each stick is coming to the same height for each strike. Now, we'll also want to try and increase the speed of this. So starting slowly and gradually accelerating, this is what it should sound like. And also decelerating. Remember, we're looking for a smooth sound with each strike being the same. Double strokes. This is very similar to using our single strokes. It'll sound very much the same, except there'll be two strikes on each hand. This can be quite a lot more difficult to control, but is a really useful technique to be able to perform some of our rhythms that we'll need later on in our lion dance drumming. It goes like this. Right, right, left, left. Just as before, we're looking to create an even sound between our right and left hand, with neither one sounding stronger or weaker. We also want to try and make this increase in speed. It can be really good stamina practice to try and go for a long period of time. So what we now need to be able to do is to combine our singles and doubles together. This is called a paradiddle. A paradiddle uses one set of singles, right, left, and one set of doubles, right, right. We then reverse the whole sticking pattern, left, right, left, left. All the notes should be evenly spaced. The paradiddle is especially useful if we're moving between different parts of the drum, or in fact different drums if we're playing with a multiple drum setup. For instance, we may want to use the rim with our right hand and the drum with our left hand. Flams. Our next technique are flams. These are very straightforward and shouldn't take too long to master. What we need to do here is to create two sticks striking the drum, but one just after the other. The way to achieve this is not to think about one hand moving first and then the other, but to have both hands moving at the same time with one stick slightly higher, creating this sound. Or the other way around. The next technique we're going to use are drags. These are very similar to flams and are completed in the same sort of fashion, one hand striking just before the other. Just as before, one hand will be slightly higher and one hand will be lower. What we're looking for this time though is not a single strike before the main hand hits. We're looking for a slight buzz on the drum head. We're going to do that by allowing the first stick to be quite loose within the hand. So as it strikes, the stick can bounce several times upon the skin. Should sound like this. Or the other way around. It's important to be good at both sides and to create a smooth bounce effect at the beginning. Remember, don't press too hard or the effect we'll get will be this. Keep the hand that strikes first nice and loose. The next technique we're going to use are ruffs. A ruff is very similar to a flam and a drag, but has no bounce technique to it at all. Instead of there being one or two strikes before the main hand hits, we're looking at 3 this time. But the 3 first initial strikes are very small and quite light to the touch. The last stroke is the strongest, the 4th stroke. A ruff should sound like this. Or we can start on the other hand. It's important to keep the 4 notes close together as possible and to always make sure the last note is the strongest of all of them. Okay, now we're going to look at something that's a little bit more technically tricky. This is the buzz roll. It's performed in all sorts of drumming and can be quite challenging on a drum the size of this. What we're looking at doing here is creating a smooth buzzed tone. This is used primarily in the time maybe when the lion is waking up. It's quite a delicate manoeuvre on this instrument as well. It's very hard to play this with a great deal of volume. This is what a buzz roll should sound like. You notice that each hand is buzzing several times on the drum. And we're alternating hands to create a smooth, continuous buzz. In the essence, it's very, very similar to the way a drag is played, but just that first section repeated over and over again. Now, depending on where you play on the drum, you may find this easier or harder. Nearer the edge, the sticks bounce a little bit more. The technique is a bit easier. Nearer the middle, where the drum is slightly tighter, you may find it harder to keep that bounce smooth and accurate. Dynamics are how loud we play. It's important to produce varied dynamics for a lion dance. If we play at the same level all the time, the music will become very monotonous and also won't give the dancers enough direction to decide what to do whilst they're moving around the performance space. So try to create interesting music where we have highs and lows, light and shade in terms of colour. That could be crescendoing, getting louder, diminuendoing, getting softer, or maybe just playing with some notes that pop out. Those are called accents. Let me give you a demonstration of that. Okay, for this example, all I'm going to do is use a continuous rhythm of single strokes. We're going to increase the volume, decrease the volume, and then show you some accents that will make the rhythm sound a little more interesting, even though the pulse remains the same. Once you've got through these basic techniques, try and mix them all together fluently to create some interesting patterns. We're now going to have a look at our other two main instruments, the cymbals and the gong. Let's start with the cymbals. The cymbals are able to create a variety of different sounds. Very soft sounds, very loud sounds. Let's start with the quietest and maybe most expressive sounds, rolling. This could most effectively be used at the beginning of the performance to emulate the breathing of the sleeping lion. Crashing and muting. The cymbals can create quite a wash of sound if crashed together repeatedly. Therefore, it's important to master muting, where the cymbals are drawn into the chest to shorten the length of the note. You'll be able to create far more interesting rhythms by using this technique. Muted taps. This is where the cymbals are held towards the chest and the edges are brought together rapidly to create a tapping effect. Here are some short examples of the cymbals using those techniques along with the drum. Now let's talk about the gong. The gong has far fewer tonal qualities than the cymbal, and as such, fewer techniques in order to be able to play. However, it's still very important in timekeeping, and there are some changes of timbre you can get. Rolling. Much like the cymbals, we can create a sustained sound by dragging the beater around the front of the gong. This can also be done on the rear, which may create a slightly different tone. Striking and muting. It's important to practice muting the notes that you play in order to shorten the sounds that the gong creates. This can be done with one hand on the rear of the instrument. You can create different tonal qualities by playing on different parts of the gong, the centre or the rim. It's also possible to use your open hand to play the gong. This can lead to a more delicate sound and could be useful in certain situations. Here are a few short selections of the gong playing along with the drum. Lion dance structure. The lion dance is often performed with the following distinct sections. It may have any of them omitted or reordered at the performer's discretion. For instance, it could be that the performance starts with the lion already in sleeping position, or the lion starting with the bows. The exact order is normally planned before each performance, but it's important that the musicians know what they're doing for each section. Opening section. Personally, I really like to grab the audience's attention at the start of a dance with 3 sharp martial shouts, Shaolin stomps and drum flourishes. It really focuses the audience's attention on the musicians and gives the lion a cue to start the performance. Three-star pattern. I use this rhythm if the lion is outside of the performance area and requires music to enter. This creates a really majestic sound for him to make his way to the starting point. Aim for approximately 80 beats per minute and use rolls as the lion settles down and goes to sleep. At this point, the lion is sleeping on the floor, and it's the musician's job to convey a sense of calm. This is created with soft rolls that gradually lift and drop in volume to match the performance of the lion's breathing and gentle movements. The drum should be the final cue for the wake-up, with a roll that builds in volume and intensity. The lion, on hearing this, lifts the head to full arm extension and then drops sharply downwards. Musicians should time a strong strike to coincide with that final fall. Essentially, the musicians cue the start of the move and the lion cues the end. This may happen several times. Waking lion. The lion is now waking up and going through various stretches, scratching and cleaning routines. The musicians should use rolls, crescendos and diminuendos with a variety of tempo shifts in a similar way to the sleeping section, but with more vigorous nature. Try to follow the lion's movements. A nice touch is to use the rim of the drum whenever the lion scratches. standing lion. The lion will eventually get to its feet and continue to move as if it's stretching and becoming more alert. Continue to follow its motions. Tempt the lion to take a few slow walking steps by playing the 3-star pattern and to get into position for the 3 bows. Bows. There are commonly 2 different styles of bow for the lion dance, short and long. It's important to know which type is to be performed, as this will affect the role of the musicians. Short bows. The lion is mostly on the spot. It lifts the head and circles from 12 o'clock clockwise or anti-clockwise back to the 12 o'clock position, and then sharply drops the head back down to a neutral position. This happens 3 times, alternating directions, and can happen very quickly. The drummer does a short roll and strike to correspond with the lion's movements. I like to play the strike on the rim of the drum. The lion raises his head and rushes forward, sweeping the head downwards, and then retreats along the same line. This happens 3 times in 3 different directions. For each bow, the musicians perform a long roll that crescendos as the lion runs forward and then plays several strikes as he retreats. These strikes should gradually slow down, can be muted or bent if you wish. The lion is now moving around the performance area and engaging with the audience, doing tricks. Musicians perform a 5-star rhythm pattern. This in essence is the same rhythm as the 3-star pattern from earlier, but with a faster pace and some freedom for improvisation. It's important to feel that we've increased intensity, but we're still a long way from playing our fastest rhythms. Feel free to build upon the basic 3-star pattern by adding some of the techniques mentioned at the start of the video. Rolls, flams, drags and ruffs can all help to decorate the main pattern without detracting from it. Add accents and mix in swells of dynamics to really help elevate the musical performance. You may want to incorporate some stops or unison rhythms with the rest of the instrumentalist to add extra excitement. It's important to keep an eye on the lion at all times, as you may need to break from your rhythm to highlight some of the tricks they are doing with long rolls. Basically, if the lion is dancing and moving, give them something to move to, but if they're doing a trick, try to coordinate with them. Greens. Traditionally, a lion dance will have a section where the lion has to retrieve a lettuce. This might be quite high up, needing a stack to reach. As mentioned previously, try to coordinate your playing with any tricks and build suspense for high lifts with rolls. As the lion chews the lettuce, create a rumble that crescendos to a big strike and cymbal crash as the lettuce is thrown out of its mouth towards the audience. This is where the lion is at its most excited. Consequently, we should now really push our tempo and intensity. If you are new to drumming, you might want to start by simply repeating the ideas that you've done for the 3 and 5 star rhythms, but faster. Hopefully though, with practice you'll be able to add a higher level of improvisation and complexity to your music. Accented and decorated notes will be more prevalent here, but it's important that the added speed doesn't compromise your technique and consequently your tone. The following are some variations of 7 star rhythms with varying difficulties. After the 7 star section, we need to think about drawing the dance to a close. I like to attract the lion's attention with a sustained roll on the rim of the drum, indicating that they should take up positions for the final bows. These are exactly the same as the long bows from the start of the dance, 3 bows to 3 directions. The musicians are rolling on the run forward and striking on the retreat. This brings us to the end of the dance. I think it's a good idea to end the performance with a well-coordinated ending. The drummer plays a short phrase of the 7 star pattern and gives a shout as the lion decapes, and musicians stand to attention. All performers bow at the same time. Everyone's dance will be different. There are no wrongs as long as a good steady beat is created. Try to play creatively. The music is an essential part of the whole performance. It's not just there to provide rhythm for the lion, but should be entertaining in its own right. It's not unusual to incorporate sections where the lion stays stationary and the music draws all the attention from the audience. Be dynamic and interesting in the way that you move and perform. Play with passion. Practice, practice, practice. Just like Kung Fu, your drumming needs good technique and muscle memory to be effective, but perhaps most importantly, enjoy.